Hello everyone and welcome back. I am Gray Eagle. I'm a real world A320 pilot and I'd like to welcome you back to my Train Like a Professional video series where I invite you to come with me as I use Microsoft Flight Simulator, more specifically the Fenix A320, as a little training tool to help me get freshened up for my yearly recurrent training. Once I note before we get started, everything that you see here is for entertainment purposes only and not to be used for real world flying. If you do plan on flying in the real world, please consult your operator's SOPs as they take precedence over anything you see in this video. Alright, with that in mind, let's get started. Some keen-eyed people may notice that we have finally made it to Savannah. All of that stuff that we did in Atlanta, we have made it to Savannah now. We're sitting on the ground here in Savannah, Georgia, on runway 10. The plan on this one is to take off, and we're going to do the DME arc for the VOR runway 1 approach. I'm going to do things a little bit differently here. Instead of taking off and heading somewhere and flight freezing and briefing everything up while we're in flight freeze, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to brief everything up while we're on the ground so we can take off, we can head out, we can make this as quick and efficient as possible after we get airborne. So, with that in mind, with the VOR approach to runway 1 in Savannah, I've already gone ahead and did my backwards ZDD, but I'm gonna go ahead and do it again with you guys just so you can see it. So we'll go to plan and 10-mile range, and then you can go through and step through our fixes here. So we got Savannah VOR, and the transition out is at or above 3,000, which it definitely seems like it wants to maintain. And then our initial fix Gagne here is at 16 DME, and we're going to be at or above 2,500 in the DME arc there. So we get Gagne. Looks like the computer wants it to be slightly higher than what it is, but Gagne at 3,000 feet, at or above 3,000 feet. Then we'll intercept the Savannah 16 DME arc to IOTA. And IOTA is at above 2,500 feet. And from there we got 6 miles to Freeman. And Freeman's at above 2,000 feet. And then from Freeman to Obese, I guess is how you would say that, is going to be 6 miles and a 3-degree glide slope. The Airbus rounds it up. If you look here, the glide slope is actually 2.98. So not quite a 3-degree glide slope. And then from Obese or Obise, the best approach is to the Savannah VOR, up to climb to 4,000. Savannah VOR will intercept the Savannah 001 radial to Tills, and we will hold at Tills. So that all looks good there. So with that, we have validated the flight plan. Our rad nav page is the next thing we need to set up. We are doing a VOR approach. So this time we're going to hard tune the Savannah VOR because we want to make sure we are following the raw data source, backing up our raw data source against what the FMS is going to be doing, because we're going to fly this approach pretty much like a GPS approach. But with the exception of, we're going to back it up with the VOR. And the VOR will take precedence. So if the needles are swinging outside of 2.5 degrees, then we have some special things we're going to do. And I'll get to that here in a second. So we want to make sure we hard tune the VOR. The pilot monitoring is really going to be the one that's monitoring the VOR, while the pilot flying is really going to be flying the GPS approach. That said, let's say you're in range of another VOR. You really want to back up your approach with a different VOR, just in case you lose the VOR. You can have some reference of navigation. You could put a different VOR in there if you wanted to, but you always want to have at least one VOR hard tuned to the VOR you're using. So on the progress page, we're going to go KSAV, runway 01. Put that in there. We got GPS primary accuracy high, and we haven't moved yet, so that's why the estimated is 0. Our performance page, this is our takeoff data. I think this will probably drop off, but I got the arrival data in there as well, their approach data, and then of course our double Ds. This is technically a GPS approach, but it's really a VOR approach. We still have nav mode on our number 1 and number 2 GPSs, and we do not need to deselect nav aid, so nothing to really worry about there. Alrighty, with that said, we can go right into briefing the approach. So let's plan on doing the VOR runway 1 into Savannah, Georgia. That's chart 13-1, dated 8 July 22, effective 14 July. The frequency is going to be 11. Did not mean to click my table out. Let's go ahead and stow you. So the frequency is going to be 115.95, as we see here in our RadNav page. The final approach course is 006. Freeman's at or above 2,000. The MDA is 520, but it is an MDA, so we had to add 50 feet to that, which brings us up to 570, if I'm doing math correctly. So 570. Touchdown zone is 39 feet. And the MSA around the Savannah VOR is going to be 2,600 feet all quadrants. A climb for the missed approach, actually, for the approach, we'll configure using full flaps and low auto brakes. For the missed approach, let's plan on doing a soft go around. A climb to 4,000, direct to the Savannah VORTAC, and outbound on the Savannah 001 to Tills, and hold. Nothing, no special notes to mention here. And the collective angle is 2.98 degrees. The only approach lighting is a PAPI on the left-hand side. And let's see, we need 3/8 of a mile visibility. We have it. I set the visibility and ceiling pretty high on this one. Well, I could even do a circling. I should be able to do a circling even if I wanted to, but we won't do that. We'll just do the straight in to runway 1. We'll be taking off in a headwind, landing in a crosswind. In the simulator, you'd be taking off with a crosswind and landing in a crosswind, because that's just what they always want to do. They always want to give you a crosswind in the sim. Alrighty, so, oh, and when we do land, let's see. Plan on a left-hand turn-off on either Echo or, what is this, Alpha 2 here. So Echo or Alpha 2, that might be Bravo. Kind of hard to tell. That might be Bravo. Oh, Bravo's on this side. So, yeah, Alpha 2. And here's the ramp area. So we'll taxi into the ramp there. We will have to do a landing assessment. We'll just assume we did it already, and we do have the landing performance to land on runway 1. So now that that's all briefed up, let's see if there's anything we missed by referencing our little diagram here, flowchart here. So we want to make sure the flight control unit and the EFIS are in ND mode and ARC mode. So where the ND is in ARC mode. VOR and NDB toggle switch on, so we have those on. ILS push buttons are off. Constraint push buttons are on. And we will use the autopilot for this approach. We validated their approach in the MCDU. We manually hard-tuned the Savannah VOR. The perf page, we entered the DDA, which is the MDA plus 50 feet in the baro field. Lastly, when we're clear for the approach, we'll just arm the approach. We'll just set the approach arm. We'll note the FMA column. We should get final and app nav, and we should get a VDEV indication. Prior to the final approach fix or glide slope intercept, we will use descent, open descent, or vertical speed to capture the vertical approach profile unless final is captured. We will be fully configured, and the pilot monitoring will have the raw data on their side, which they do. There's the raw data. After final approach fix, ensure the FMA displays final lap. Set the missed approach altitude in the FCU when final lap is enunciated. Ensure autopilot is disconnected no later than 250 feet AGL. The pilot monitoring will monitor the raw data displayed on the ND and the vertical deviation. The pilot monitoring will call out VOR when the raw data bearing exceeds 2.5 degrees. So that's very, very hard to kind of see that on this when you're kind of looking at something that you got 5-degree ticks. So halfway in between any tick and let's see, I said the final approach course is 0.06. So with the final approach fix pretty much being a half tick away, we're looking for the needle to swing past these halfway marks here. Of course, you know, it would be zeros. North would be up here. So we're looking for just the slightest deviation. It's very hard to see when you're looking on a display like this where everything's not precisely ticked off. But you'll do the best you can to look at 2.5 degrees on the ND, and then you'll call out path when the vertical deviation reaches a half dot or 50 feet. So a half dot of deviation is 50 feet. A full dot deviation, I think, is 75 feet on this. And we'll execute a missed approach if a failure or degradation of equipment required to complete the approach, except as required for station passage. The bearing deviation indicates more than 5 degrees difference. So once you at 2.5 degrees, you're going to say VOR. At a full 5 degrees, that's a go around. And the vertical deviation is 3/4 of a dot. So it's 3/4 dot is 75 feet. So you got a half dot and then 3/4 of a dot. You're going to go around. So that's what the FO is looking for. He's got those numbers in his head. He's kind of silently repeating them to himself as you're coming back in on the approach there. So that takes care of everything that we should need to brief up. Alrighty, now with all of that done, so let's get this started. We will take off, and I'm pretty much going to head out to Gagne, and we will start the approach from there. Everything should be set, ready to go. All checklists are done, and we are ready for takeoff. Fenix 320, runway 10, clear for takeoff. Runway 10, clear for takeoff, Fenix 320. Alrighty, 1.05 on the April. Alright, stable. Flex. Thrust set. $80. Checked. V1, rotate. Positive rate, gear up. And because I want the highest chance of success, autopilot on. Use that ceiling at 580 feet. I might bring the ceiling up a little bit more. Be just barely below it. remind me to do that on our way out outbound here. So we'll go ahead bullheading, bring you down to climb. Climb set. Only got a little bit of time. I will adjust this a little bit. Okay, just a little bit. And make sure we get below the cloud layer. That was looking very marginal initially. Excellent. Flaps up after takeoff checklist. Alrighty. The after takeoff checklist is complete. And let's see, we're leveling here at 3,000. We'll go direct to Gagne. How's that look? Looks good. We'll insert that. Weather has been adjusted. We're on our way to Gagne. And let's go ahead and select your speed now so we can go ahead and activate and confirm the approach. That is done. Approach is activated and confirmed. It did keep everything. And we will set that back up. I got a brakes back to low for the approach there. And now let's go ahead and do a descent checklist. Altimeters 29902 and 3000. 29902 checked. Auto brake. Low. Prefer approach page. Set. Arrival briefing. Reviewed. No star. VOR runway 01. Approach. Status is checked. The descent checklist is complete. Excellent. So now that we're airborne, I'm trying to make this go by as quickly as I possibly can. We're level here at 3,000. Theoretically, I could put in 2,000 right here and manage it up. And the airplane should go nowhere because 3,000 is a crossing restriction at Gagne. I'll keep it at 250 for now. We'll do 250 just past Gagne. Hopefully it will descend once we get to Gagne. And then I'll slow it up once we're in the arc. From Gagne to Iota. And it does look like the airplane wants to slow up here in just a little bit. So everything's going nice and smoothly since I briefed everything on the ground. The pilot monitoring has his numbers in his head. He's got 006, which is the final approach course, and he's looking for a 2.5 degree deviation, which is 0, we'll call that 008, or 004.5. It's really kind of hard to tell when you're looking at that. So, you know, doing your best to kind of look and see those needles swinging around there. Looks like the airplane wants to begin slowing down right just here. So we will. We only got 1,000 feet to lose and plenty of space to do it in. I'll slow it up to 210. Excellent. So the airplane is doing quite a good job of maintaining a 16 degree arc, or 16 DME arc. The turn is, we're just 0.2 inside of the arc right now, 0.1 inside of the arc, and everything is going quite well. There we go. 16 degree or 16 DME exactly. We're 3 for 2. VFE next minus 10. So I'm gonna go ahead and go flaps 1. That'll give us a little breathing room down there towards where VLS is, especially since we got some gusty winds. So flaps 1, speed verified. There it is.
2,500.
Yep, that checks. So my plan really is, I don't want to be fully configured by IOTA because Freeman's the only approach fix, essentially. So what I'll do is I want to be at 170 and flaps 2 cross an IOTA. Yeah, we got the, I'm glad the airplane remembered. See, we got the IOTA at about 2,500. I don't know why it's still flashing yellow for me. Shouldn't be flashing yellow still. We've been level at 2,500 for some time now. But the winds are doing gusty, windy things. This is gonna be spicy. We'll see how this turns out once we get down there. I don't know if this airplane, if I'm ready for a crosswind that's stiff. But always up for a challenge, especially in the simulator. You know, the worst they can do is make you redo it all over again. Typically, crosswind will work out pretty well in the simulator. You just kind of hold it off, and then right at the last second, you kick in a little bit of rudder, let that wing dip down and touch down first. Get the other main down, and then you get the nose wheel down. Airbus is actually really good when it comes to crosswind landings in the real world, because as long as you get one strut compressed, you get the half spoiler deflection that gets the other wing to come right on down to the ground. So it kind of helps you out in that aspect. Alrighty. So now I'm going to go ahead and slow it up to 170 knots. And I will arm the approach. So the approach is armed. We got alt final and app nav. And we should get final app once we get closer to Freeman. So like I said, I want to be 170, flaps 2, so flaps 2, speed verified. Excellent. We're set up quite well. Got a direct 15 knot crosswind, which is probably, I assume that's probably about the crosswind they're going to give us in the sim. There we go. We got the landing memo. I'm going to just go ahead and arm the spoilers now. In normal circumstances, I would add a few knots for the gust. The Fenix is just so darn floaty that I'm not worried about it. So I'm not going to add anything to the gust in this airplane. And we'll just see how that turns out. You can see the auto thrust is doing the best they can to keep our speed. Alrighty, we are about 2.5 from Freeman. So let's go ahead and manage up our approach speed and go gear down. Flaps 3, speed verified. And lastly, flaps full, speed verified. Before landing checklist altimeters, we got 29902 and 2000. 29902 is chucked. Engine mode, norm, landing gear, down and 3 green, ECAM memo, landing no blips. Before landing checklist is complete. Alright, we got the vertical deviation bar coming in. We got our needles. They look like they're at a 007. Good enough for government work there. We got final lap. Set the missed approach altitude. Missed approach altitude is 4,000. That is set. Just a rockin' and a rollin' right now on our way down. So showing like a 006, 007. That's good enough for government work. We're right on vertical deviation. And if we go into our park page over here, 0 feet off. I like it. Stable. Runway. Continuing. Alright, so look at there. VOR Approach did it, but look how we're offset ever so slightly. So we'll go ahead, disconnect the autopilot, bring the airplane back on the center line while keeping it coming down. We can respect the glide slope a little bit on this to keep us coming down on profile, but we can't trust the lateral portion of it. There we go. Now we're back on glide slope, and wow, we are fighting some gust here right now. Alrighty, coming in, got 2 white, 2 red. We're not gonna try to grease it on. We're just gonna try to get it down. Kick a little bit of that rudder in there. Wing low. Boom. Get the nose down. Nice firm landing for the crosswind we have. 80, 60. There we go. Now let the auto brake do auto brake things and slow us all the way down to a stop right here. Oop. Come on. There we go. Good job, auto brakes. We'll set the brakes and call that the end of the scenario. So that's what we would do on the line for a VOR approach. Really don't get those really that often because the vast majority of places we go to either have a GPS or an ILS, so you're not really doing VOR approaches that often, which is why we get to see it every year in the simulator. So that concludes this video, and until the next one, everyone have a great day. Bye-bye.